All right, so we did couple of refactoring in our last class, right? We started with the aim was to stop just a sec. Alright. The aim was to stop the buttons from showing when we list our stored blocks, and then we also changed a couple of things. So I'll just go through the whole code on this page and then go through what we have in view blog HTML. So I'm definitely not going to be to redo what we did in last class. I'll only go through the code and explain it so that when you guys watch the video, pull the code, you're able to understand it. Alright, so that way we summarize whatever we have. Some of the explanations and stuff I obviously can't record them, so we'll record those ones. We'll just take them as they are gone. There's nothing we can do to bring them back. Excuse me. So let's this is a create blog page, and first off, to on the create blog page once the content rather than event a what do they call it, dump content loaded events on the documents. So once the document for that page loads, it will call these two guys. So we have a function. So instead of having it as a function reference like we're doing in the other ones, we have the function inside there. I could probably take it out and make it a name function, but because I'm not naming it, I made it an arrow function. And then I call these two guys, the add event listeners and the display blocks. So this adds calls the add event listener function that adds the event listeners we need for the page, and this guy displays the blocks that are available. So excuse me. So let's say, yeah. Can you still see my screen? Hello?
Yes, can you
Oh,
hear me?
oh yeah, I can hear you now. Yeah. So we'll have a we'll have a delete button inside the view of these guys in case you want to delete a blog, right? So we'll finish the creation of the blogs. Then so once this page loads, excuse me. Yeah. So on this page loads, we add the event listeners. We add the event listeners.
Yeah.
So, but with this, I can pause it and continue.
Are you using their okay, you're not using their
No,
reference.
I'm not. I'm not using theirs anymore. All right. So, when the DOM content is loaded, we want to display the blocks. This function, this display block function, is the guy loading all of this. All right. It fetches the available blocks if there is any and displays them here. How does it do that? Let's check what's inside it. So we instantiate the storage service, and then we get the logged in user from storage service. There's actually another way to also get the logged in user, and then we wouldn't need to keep going to the storage service anytime we want it. We can make it static. Um, yeah, but I don't know if plain JavaScript allows static. Is it modifiers or something? I don't know what they call it. Might be combination of JavaScript and TypeScript, but I'm not sure. But then, even that that's not possible. We can always find a way to do it, but that's by the way. So we'll fetch the logged in user from the local storage using this storage service. Dot retrieve, provide a key to the logged in to the content we want to fetch, which in this case is the logged in user. And then we also fetch the stored blocks. So storage service dot retrieve will pass in the key, which is blocks. It will fetch it, and then we pass it into a JSON file. Sorry, we'll pass it into an object back from a stringified this thing, which is that's like JSON also. But in this case, it's
So I
not.
was going to ask.
Yeah, yeah.
I was going to ask you. You keep saying passive JSON and all. I What is it?
Say again. Say again.
Like this JSON pass.
Yeah.
What is it all about?
So this is JSON, right?
Yes.
Full meaning
What is it?
JavaScript object notation.
Okay.
Now, what does JSON do? JSON is like
Make any.
a format. So people laugh at JavaScript, but it's actually the most popular language currently. And then
Yeah.
it's provides the object notation that every other language uses as at the moment. The time people were using XML for data exchange. People were using I think which other one, XML and can't remember the other one again. But I think SML and JSON are actually one of the most popular guys. But JSON is the most popular. So it provides a notation to create objects. Every language probably have a way they create their own objects. So, but JSON is a JavaScript way of doing objects, and then every other language agreed. Okay, this is more. This is like a universal way of doing it. Let's agree to be for uniformity. Let's agree to be using all of this. Well, if you want to do data exchange, did it make sense in a way?
Okay. Between the languages or just identifiers.
Yeah, it just like initially when phone became went viral, we had Nokia charger, we had Nokia small pin, big pin, we had Samsung, we had a Sagen. All of them had a different kind of chargers. So you can't use a Nokia charger to charge a Samsung charger then until the advent of USB
Mm.
and different universal. So that's what like JSON it is. So languages need data, not just languages, maybe different technologies, your back end and your front end. Maybe a driver you installed, a device, different technologies or different APIs. Technologies, including APIs, need a means of communication, like a particular format, so that everybody doesn't just go into chaos. So JSON is the format mostly. They also use XML, but JSON is the most popular guy. So that's the
Okay.
one
Thank
everyone is storing and transferring. JSON is something when data is sent from a web server to a web page. JSON is serial, blah 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 blah. So you can just search for it and read it up. But this is basically what it is. It's just a format of describing data so that everybody understands what the data is. So XML is something like similar to HTML or something. XML is something like maybe you have let's say blocks now. You can have then they put blocks, right? And then it starts writing the different things like the same way you have objects hierarchies, so different things. But this is easier for machines to understand, but more difficult to read for human beings. So that's I think that's why this became popular because machines and humans can also understand the inputs. All right. So
Yeah. Okay.
maybe I could also show you. All right, don't worry. Let me do it here. Just that this guy corrects Jason when you do it wrongly, so I'll just use it. Now, there's a tiny difference between JavaScript objects and JSON objects. Alright. So in JavaScript, if I want to create a person object, I can say cos person equals this object, and I say name Amarachi, right? Can you see what I'm doing?
Yeah.
School, um, ABU, age, age, 25. Alright. Now, if you notice, this guy, that's what I actually wanted to do it here. He's showing me red line here. If you did you notice the red line?
Yes.
Normally, this is fine in JavaScript. If I move this to JavaScript, it is fine. It's a valid object. It's a valid JavaScript object. If I move it to this place. Alright. It's a valid JavaScript object. Where is the error coming from? Expected. Oh, sorry. Mouse person equals this. Yeah. So this is a valid JavaScript object, right? If you notice, there's no error on
Yes.
it. But then, why is it showing error here? Because though it's a JavaScript object, it's not a JSON object or JSON object. Some call it JSON, some call it JSON. I call it JSON. So there are slight differences, all right, between a JavaScript object and JSON object. One is there's something JavaScript does, or some languages do. The keys are always supposed to be string, but if you provide them and you don't put string, JavaScript puts a string, makes it a string behind the scene for you, and forgives you.
Mm.
But its strict JSON format will not allow that. The only time JavaScript will frown at it is if it's a string like this, name of person. It will not frown at it. In this case now, you must make it a string. This is also a valid key. Anything can be key, just make sure it's a string. Alright? But
Okay.
in JSON it must be a string.
Both the key and the value must be
No.
strings.
The values can be anything in a JavaScript object or in a JSON. The values can be anything.
Okay. Yeah.
But the
Oh,
key must be a
yes.
string. No space in between. Strictly a string. So if it's just one word, it puts the string behind the scene for you. Else, it will show it as an error. But if you are looking at a valid JSON format, now JavaScript object notation is very similar to JavaScript object, but not exactly. Because this is not JavaScript, it's not forgive us, we must put this in a string. If not, it's showing it as an error. If you notice.
Okay.
So that's one of the differences. Now, also pay attention. So let me pull out this. This is another difference between JSON and JavaScript and a JavaScript object. I didn't put a last, what's it called? Comma
Come on.
after this guy.
After 25.
Yeah. If I put it, it will start complaining because it's expecting me to put another key and object pair, key and value pair. Sorry. So JSON is like, if you don't have a nesting, why put it there? Because whenever I see command, I have it in mind, you want to give me another key value pair. But JavaScript doesn't mind. I can put it here. It doesn't care. That's another major difference between the both. Aside that, they are the same. So that's what JSON is. Now, this back. Alright. So now um yeah. Now JSON, this particular one you're seeing here is actually a class, alright, that has some methods inside it that we can use to work on JSON objects or convert things between from JSON to regular objects. Does it make sense?
Yes.
So
But
this is a class provided by JavaScript for you to use and manipulate a JSON, convert values from JavaScript objects to normal JSON. So if I have JSON.stringify, right? So this stringify is what converts a regular object to JSON. It's going to put everything in quotes, everything in quotes, even the places you don't have quotes. It's going to put quotes for you. All the features of JSON is going to apply it to that object. Now, if you work on that object directly, it's a string. It's going to throw an error because it's literally a string. So for you to get it back to um, a real object, you use JSON.parse. Does it make sense?
okay, when you are converting it to JSON, you put the stringify. Then when you are bringing it back, you put the pass.
Exactly. So to convert a JavaScript object or any value to a pure, basically most is going to be a JavaScript object because here we are talking of JavaScript. So to convert a JavaScript object to a JSON object, you do JSON.stringify. All right.
Mm,
And then if you now want to
yeah.
convert that same object back, you do um, so you do JSON.parse. So let's say console.log stringified objects. Alright. JSON.stringify person. So if I open our console, we should be able to see what that looks like. Console. Pay attention. Name of school, person, blah blah blah, Amarachi. Hold on. Let me remove this. I have just name. Yeah. We had just name, but now it's in string. Everything is in string. Did you notice?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Even the object itself, see this guy, is a string. Let me show you. Let's find the type. See the type? It converts everything to a string. That's why when you now start doing objects, calling object methods on it, it doesn't work because they are all strings. How do we get this guy back?
You JSON.parse.
Let's see. Dot pass. Um, so let's take this. Const just JSON equals this guy. JSON person. JSON person. What am I calling JSON today? JSON person equals this guy. So we already know this guy is stringified. Now we want to pass it back to give us our regular objects. Oh, sorry. I still have that type of. If you notice, it's writing objects now. So let me take out the type of us what type the data is. Then we'll get our regular objects back. Now we'll have our regular objects. Alright. So that's what that guy does. Does it make sense now?
Yes,
Yeah.
it does.
So another question is, why are we passing JSON when we get something from local storage? Reason is, local storage only stores key value pairs, or only stores strings with keys. So you can't store objects directly into local storage. It only stores like single values. Object is like a key value pair, so you can't keep track of that. And what we are saving, the blocks we are saving, is like an object. It even has an array. So for us to be able to save it in local storage, we stringify it. We convert it to a string. It's an object, but it's looking like a string. If you remember, that's what we are doing in our. If you go to our storage service, save. If you notice, before we save, where are we saving? Right. So we are checking if it's an object, stringify it. All right. So this
Yes.
is this thing we did here. We are trying to reverse.
Okay.
All right. So
Yes.
when we now get it back, it's going.
Um.
Yeah.
Okay. Finish talking. Let me ask my second question.
Hold on. Let me even pay attention to it. Value, type of value equals objects. Then just not stringify value, else value. Can you imagine? I was asking the question that they say, why do I need to do JSON.parse two times? And when it didn't happen, I just kept quiet and moved them. Now I'm noticing I did JSON.stringify two times. So it's stringified and then stringified the stringified one, which made me to do parse, because I did parse here, and then I noticed what I was getting was still string. I had to do another parse here. Now I can take this out in peace. Let me look for wherever another place I used it to. Yeah. So ask your second question.
Okay. There's something you do when you want to console log.
Alright.
Like I've been trying to. When you want to console log something,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
you put like two sets of value in it, and one is a string and the other one is something else. The thing you want to console log. So like why? And I've noticed you see the first set of value or anything that you put right
You
there. I
don't used to
don't
see
see
it.
console. Yes,
Oh.
like when you this one you just did, you're like stringified person, something like that. Then you now put.
This is just like a marker. Let's say I have a lot of things on the console, or if I'm looking at the console, I want to be once I see this, I know it's this just like an identifier, a marker, nothing like just me trying to make my life easier.
Like the comment, it does not,
It,
like it's not red.
yeah, I'll show you what it does. So logged in user. Let me put this here, or let me put this here. Alright. So let's look at the console. I don't know what's happening. I think I have a bug. Maybe because of those things I changed. Let's find out. On codes reference storage service line 25. 25. Okay, so I missed S here. So I hit play JavaScript. Yeah. But still. So logged in user is undefined. That's crazy. I think there are a couple of places I did that double JSON pass. Let me find them and change them. So yeah, I did it here. Probably need to remove all of them. Oh, hold on, this is different. This is not storage service. This is probably the guy giving us the issue. Now this should be it. It's still not fine. Yeah, this is it. This is the guy giving us the issue. It should be fine now. Let me log in. Logged in user is still. Okay, let me try and log in again. Logged in user is still not fetched. Logged in user is on the phone and I'm wondering why. Let's see what this. I'm sure one of the changes we made have touched something. Let's find out which one it is. Logged user. Story side of the tree. Logged user. So let's look at the storage here. Logged in user, I have a logged in user. Display blocks. How did I run into this one? Alright, so let's continue. I will delete these blocks, alright, simply because they are no longer useful now. We don't like the format at which with which they were saved, so I'm removing them. Alright. So we'll go back to our code. We're talking about display blocks. So we fetch let me take this out too. So we fetch the blocks. Now if there is a block, we do something. If not, don't do anything. So if there's no block, don't display anything. Alright? If there is a
Yes.
block, if you fetch something, then pick out the block for that particular user that is logged in. Remember, the structure with which we saved our blocks is we use an object, alright? When we are saving our blog, we use an object that has the key. Object is key value pairs. The key is the email of the logged in user, because we know the emails are unique, so we want to use the emails to track the person that is logged in and get only his blog, right?
Yes.
So that is how we saved it. So because we know it's the email, we are using to track it as the key. When we fetch that object, which is an object of blocks, we do what? We use the logged in email, the email of the logged in user to pick out the array of blocks for that logged in person. So if what he picked out was undefined, that means there is no key with this name. Assign it an empty array. That's what happened in line 25. Now we have a cat element in our create blog HTML. All right, we have a cat element in our create blog HTML that is supposed to hold the blocks. This guy display all those blocks. Is a flex and has rows and columns. So it is a row. Then we want to create columns inside it with the blocks. So the columns are going to be the blocks. Go to Bootstrap and try to understand Bootstrap rows and columns, so you understand exactly why we had the styles we had on it. We are not explaining CSS at this point, right? So we fetch this div. When we fetch the div, we create a template for the blocks. Remember, we save them as strings only, because initially we were saving them as an element, but that was like an oversight. It's not supposed to be so. It's very terrible doing that. So we're saving them as a string, plain string. That means when we fetch it, we manipulate it to how to the particular UI, the interface we want. All right. So when we fetch it, we create a template. Ignore this for now. We create a template, a div with styles that matches that flex div we have in our create blog HTML. And then we display the image, and then the body of the card. All right. In the body of the card,
Yeah.
is it?
Yes. Okay.
All right. In the body of the card, we have a header 6 for putting the blog title, and another one, a span for putting the created date, and then the contents. Now, because the content is a list of paragraphs, like a list of strings, all right. Remember, it's an array of paragraphs. We remove the p element, but we have the values in an array. You don't want, if you place it here directly, it's going to just put the values of the array jam-packed. We want it to actually be paragraphs. So what we do is we loop through the array, even before we start creating the templates. We loop through the arrays, all right. Blog.content. For each of them, you pick out one content and assign it to this empty string we created here. Now, not just assigning, we are concatenating. So for each one, just keep adding. In the end, we will just have multiple, something like this. Because we are concatenating the strings, we have something like this, something like this. So different, plenty paragraphs depending on how many elements are in this content array. Then you now put those paragraphs inside here. Alright? So when you now put those paragraphs inside, it's going to be displayed as a paragraph. Does it make sense?
Yes.
So that's how we achieve displaying the blocks. Now let's go to how we created the blocks. So when the page is loaded, we put added an event listener to this guy, this form. We picked that form where we have the blog stuff, and then added a submit event listener. So whenever it's submitted, we call this guy the create blog guy. Now before the create blog, I don't think I need to go over this. This add blog paragraph, I think we've done this before. Okay, yeah, let me just go over all of them. Alright. So we fetch the add paragraph button and set a click event on it. So whenever you click on that add paragraph, that's this man. Whenever I click on this add paragraph, we want to add that particular paragraph to this our paragraph holder. Alright, this is still where we are reviewing it. Alright, we've not saved it yet.
Yeah.
So that is what this guy is doing. So we add a click event listener to the button. If you click on it, it calls this guy. We're preventing default, we don't want to reload the page. We pick out the test in the test area elements. We already fetched the test area elements from somewhere up here. This is where we fetched it. Alright. So we pick out the text in the text area element if there is a value in it, because we don't want you to add empty values. So only if it has value, if this value is valid, if it's truthy, and it is now if it's not, if there is value in it, that's when we want you to do something. If not, just ignore it. If it is not an update, then increase the paragraph count. That means the number of paragraphs is increasing. All right. Now, by default, its update is false. So if it's not an update, increase the paragraph count. Now, how do we find the ID? If it's an update, then there should be one a paragraph that you're editing. So the edit ID, use it. If it's not an update, then use the paragraph count. Because one will be increasing the ID by 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, depending on the paragraph. One will be increasing by 1. So now when you get the ID, factoring in whether it's an update or not, you get the ID. You use the ID as a key to save that value in the blocks object. Alright? You save it in blocks object, and then you call this method or function that does what? Displays the paragraph.
Yes.
So is this guy that actually makes this thing to show. When you put something here and you click on add, it will add it to the object and then cause that guy that will now look through that object and display whatever is in that object here. Software development looks very technical, but deep down it's just simple logic. So this guy, and when it's done displaying, it will set this is update to false. Now if his update was false before, it's fine, nothing changed. But if it's an update we did, we need to set it to false so that the next one we start afresh, not thinking that the next one is an update. That's why we need to do this. Alright, now let's look at what the display paragraph is doing. What is it doing? It tries to do a concatenation of templates again, just like we did when we were displaying the blocks we fetched from the local storage. So it's going to look through the blocks objects, look through the key value pairs. So for each ID, this is just a variable name representing the keys in this block. So for each ID in blocks, do you understand this line 86?
Yes.
Yeah. So this is just similar like for each key in objects. But because I know what the key is and I know what the object is, I don't want to use funny names. So I say for each key in blocks, then do what? Concatenate, create a template with those values and concatenate it. So we are trying to create the template that we implement this design. We have a paragraph, have a div with a block paragraph class and a row. We made it a row. Inside it we have another div. We provided an ID for it, a dynamic ID depending on the ID of the blog, the particular blog we are displaying. Reason is we also want to keep track of those guys with this ID when someone clicks on it. Alright. So we have a valid a dynamic ID. We'll now attach /value to the dynamic ID. We'll have some classes and then we put the value we want to see. So we put the ID as a key and the value we want to see. So that's what displays this guy. We display the value using the key to pick it out. And then we have the buttons. Now this is the guy containing the buttons, the edit, and the other one. Once he creates this template, it's concatenates it with this string, which is an empty string initially, and now does this for each one. So by the time you're done, you have like multiple of these guys concatenated just like the other one. When it's done, they are HTML, but they're like string templates. We need to make it the inner HTML of the blog content div, which is this man. Alright, for you to start displaying. So we say blah 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 dot get element by ID blah 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 dot inner HTML equals this template strings we have here. All right, and then we set the test area, the value of test area, to empty string. So that's like resetting it to an empty string. That's why when we do this and we'll do this wipes. All right, so that's that for display paragraphs. Then after displaying paragraphs, we need to add event listeners to this guy, because if not, they're just plain buttons. So anytime you reload, add another one. Remember, we refresh it and redisplay everything from afresh. So we need to also add this event listeners back again, because we recreated those elements afresh. So the old one has gone with the event listener on it. So what do? We clear the test area, and then we fetch the edit, the paragraph edit button, the paragraph delete button. So let me just correct this now, because the name is not nice, it's confusing. So let me call it paragraph edit btn. This makes more sense, because it's those buttons that we are trying to get. I don't know why I call it paragraph to edit. We fed the paragraph edit buttons and the paragraph delete buttons. For each of the edit buttons, we add a click event listener to it, which we keep track of when it's clicked on. We add a click event listener to it, and then we tell it the function to call when that guy is clicked. We also do the same thing for the delete button, and then in the function for edit, what we do is we fetch the ID of the elements. Remember, we added a dynamic ID, which is like the key of the object. So when we now click on it, to fetch that ID back again. So because this guy, the button div is inside here. All right, this is the this is the button, and this is the div, the button div. So what we are clicking on is this man. Remember, this man doesn't have an ID. The one that has an ID is the parent, but we are clicking on these guys. So we need to find a way to always find the parent whenever we click on these guys. All right, which is why we have when you clicked on this one, you fetch the ID of the parent. So remember, this is events. Whenever you add a function to an event listener, it takes this parameter. All right, so which is event.current target. So what's the current guy that was targeted by that event? Dot parent element. So if it's the button we targeted, it's going to get the button we targeted is going to get the parent element. Now what are we trying to take out from the parent element? The ID. So give us the ID. Remember, that ID is like the key we use in saving that guy in the object. So because we're editing, we set its update to be true. We set the edit ID to be that ID we picked out, because that's the one we want to edit. And what do we do next? We set the value. We fetch the value of the value of this guy now. Remember, this is the value. The value is not inside this div for button. The value is inside this other div. So we now use this ID we assigned to this place, the dynamic ID, and then the slash value, to fetch the value of this div, whatever is in it. So we fetch the value of that div with that dynamic ID plus the slash value. This is the value element, and then fed the elements and pick out the test content and assign it as the value of the test area element, which is why when I click on this, what happened? I think I saved and it reloaded. Which is why when I click on this guy, hold on. So when I click on this guy, it picks whatever value it does in it, places it here for me to edit. Once I'm done editing it, I click on this again, it saves it to that one. not as a new one or to any other one. Why? Because we are keeping track of the ID of the guy that that is being edited. So that's what the edit paragraph does. What do the delete paragraph does? It picks out the ID of the guy you want to delete and just delete it from the blog ID. And then once it deletes it, it's what do they call it? It's calls this display paragraph to display all those stuff again. Does it make sense? Any question on that? Alright, so I think, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, I can hear you.
Alright, so no question
Can
on
you
it.
hear me?
There's no question on it, right?
Yeah.
Alright. So I think that's all we need to explain here. We've explained display paragraphs, we've explained create blogs. Alright, so we haven't talked about create blogs here. So when we are done with all of this, we want to now actually these guys. We want to now actually create the blog and add it to the local storage. If you notice, it's not in the local storage yet. So you have a create blog button here, and then when you click on the create blog button, a lot of things happen. What happens? So this guy, so he added a submit event listener to the form and say once this form is submitted, which is what this guy is doing. This is a submit button. So once the form is submitted, do whatever you find inside here. What do? We initialize the local storage. We fetch the logged in user because we want to know the email to use to save the blog, and then we fetch the title of the blog, which is this guy. How do we fetch it? We use the ID of the elements, ID of this element. We fetch the title by blah 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 dot element by ID by dot value, and then we create the blog object. So the blog object is going to have the user to be the logged in user, the name of the logged in user, the title to be the title, the content to be the values of. Remember, this is an object, and when we do object dot values, it gives us an array of the values in that object, not the keys, just the values. So we want this to be an array of values, so we do object of values and now put the object, which is the blogs, to fetch the values only and assign it to this guy, and then we'll do the date created stuff to catch the current time the thing was created. Alright, so when we create the blog object, we now need to save it. So to save it, we first fetch, because we want to assume that is not we want to assume there's a possibility that person already has a blog, right? For instance, I save this blog here. This is my blog. Now, if I create a second blog, I don't expect your system to save another instance of my blog in that object because they are all mine. All I needed to put it inside the object with my name. Alright? Because if you look at blog, all of them has the user email as key. I don't want you to come and create another user email with my name again, my email again. Just put it inside my own because I already have a blog. Remember, because local storage keeps unique keys. If you try to create the same key here, it's going to replace what we have here instead of adding to it. So to avoid that, what do? We first fetch the existing blocks if there is any. If there is none, make it an empty object, but if there is any, you fetch it. When you fetch it, you check if there is any with the logged in user email. So that user that's logged in, does he have a key? Is there any key in our object that matches the person's email? If there is, that means that person already have an object. So instead of assigning it directly, you just push into the array. Remember, this guy is an array. If you look at blog, you see that is an array, right? You can see it. It's an array of values. You can see it, right? So we want to push into that array instead of creating a new one. So you push into it the new blog. But if it doesn't have any email matching the logged in user, then that means it's a new one. just put the blog inside an array and save it. All right,
Yeah.
that makes sense, right? Now when you do it, you just do storage service does save, and it saves it, and everybody's happy, and life is easy. So that's that for this guy. I think the only thing we now did is alright, so let me just add another one to be sure everything is still fine, because I know with these small changes. Alright, yeah, so it's working as expected. He's displaying only two blocks. He's playing two blocks for the user, and he didn't create a new one here. So another thing we did was, when we click on this view block button, so let's go to the view block button and check out the click. All right, where is view block? Where is view block? You go HTML, the blah blah blah. Sorry, using this create block HTML that I will have that view block. Yeah. Create. Yeah. So he's here. He's in the cards. I was looking for it here. I forgot that the cards are dynamically added from JavaScript. So um, display blocks, it should be inside display blocks. Yeah. So we'll have a button called view block. You can see it, right? I have a button called view block, which is this button here. So you want to add something to it, because when we click on it, we want it to move to view block, but then we want to know the particular block that was clicked on, so that we can fetch it and display the details for the user here. How do we do that? We need to find a way to pass, because there are two things we need to find it: the email of the logged in user, because that's the unique key we are using to fetch a block for a user, and then the index, because remember the content is an array, so you need to get the index of the particular block, because the person can have two blocks. You want to know the particular one that was clicked on, right? So that is the two things we need to pass: the index and the email. How do we pass it? You can add query params to a URL. So query params are like query parameters. All right. So you can also add a hash. That's a fragment. That's what they call it, fragment. All right. So, but because we need two things, we can easily pass it as an object. But our URL is not going to accept an object directly, so we pass it as a query param. So query param is actually a kind of object, but in string, or in a query string. Every query param is going to be something like this: blah blah blah. Sorry. Blah 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 .com slash, maybe slash home or slash whatever. Whenever you see question mark, know that the next thing following is query param. You can now say name equals Amarachi, and that means you have more than one thing you are passing. Sorry. And what else are we passing? And email equals amarachi@gmail.com, and school equals ABU. So you can pass as much things as you want. Alright? So when you pass these query params, instead of the URL being the regular URL, it's going to have those your query params, which is what is happening here. But the query params doesn't redirect it to another page, though things were added. But because it's seen a question mark, it knows that the URL stopped at everything at the right left hand side of the question mark. So the right hand side is just parameters. I don't care about them. I only want to keep it for you in case you need it to pick out the values from it. Alright. So that is what we did here. We passed the email and the index of what the particular blog that was clicked that we are displaying. Alright. So that when they click on it, it passes same to this page. Now in this page, we need to extract these parameters so we can use it and fetch the particular listing involved. So let's go to view blog. Um, what's it called? JS. So in view blog JS, once the content is loaded, we call the function that has event listeners, though we don't have any event listeners now, and then we call the fetch blog function. The fetch blog function initializes the storage service and fetches the blocks. When it fetches the blocks, it's going to try to fetch the block that was selected. How do we find the block that was selected? The block that has that user email. When we get the block that has that user email, we now use the index to get the particular block that was selected from the array. Alright. How do we do that? On these stored blocks, we use this notation to fetch, because this is an object, so we are using this to fetch the key, which is the email from the search params. We're using this to fetch the value, the block from the stored blocks. Because we know this is going to be an array, we also want to use the index to also fetch the block that's at the location of the index they provided. So that when we do that, we get the selected block, and then we now create a paragraph. Remember, those guys are like paragraphs. So we create a paragraph, we look through the contents of the blocks. So selected block, just the same thing we did when we were displaying the other guy. Look through the contents, which is an array, and then create a paragraph for it, and we now set the values. So the title, we set the title, the author, we set the user, the date, we set the date, the block content, we set the content we fetched. How did we get these search parameters? How did we pull it out up here? Const search params equals object of from entry. So this is one method in object class that creates an object from an array. Alright? Not just an array now. When you give it something that looks like an object, it creates from an array. So when it creates from an array, is at times the keys will be 0, 1, 2, that's the indexes. Also, when you give it something that looks like an object, though not necessarily an object, like this search, the search will give you an object that we can't actually access directly. So when you create an instance of URL search params, so this is a class. When you create an instance of it using this location.search, it will return what does it return? It will return new init. It will return this string. So let me even console log it and see what this guy returns. But I believe it returns an array, a list of things, or something that looks like an object. Alright, so console log this guy. That's too long. URL params for parameter. Alright, so let's go to this guy. You see what the URL param is? So it's an object kind of, but we don't have access to it like a regular object. It's JavaScript kind of thing. You understand? So JavaScript is what defines what this thing is. The console is only able to show us the size, but we don't have access to what it is. Alright? If you go inside the prototype, I'm sure somewhere they will define that is an object here. So the prototype is coming from object prototype. But we probably need to start going inside a lot of things to get what they are, what is inside it. And this is something we can't do with our code. So we need to convert it to a real object that we can access, which is what this guy is saying. So from this entry that we don't know what it is, convert it to a real object. So object dot from entries can also do, I think there is object dot from array. Or maybe dot from entries work for array too. Yeah. Yeah, I think from entries should work for array too. Yeah, it should. So object of from entries, you provide an object like value, it will convert it to a real object. So that's what convert this URL search params to this object that now has the keys we are looking for. Alright. So if I console log this, you see what the guy now gave us. Instead of this thing that doesn't make so much sense, it's giving us a real thing now, which is an object that has the email and the index. It was inside here initially, but because it's not the correct data format, we weren't able to see it. So that's how we're able to fetch the value and then display the guy correctly. Now I gave any question before I move to the assignments part.
No, I just put that assignment. I was going to even ask about it.
Right, so now I gave 3 assignments, right? Number 1 is,
The more than Felicia.
oh, it was, let's see. Number 1 is, this guy is not supposed to be listing these placeholders. If you notice, this man is no longer listing placeholders, he's listing real things now, right? Right. So this man is no longer supposed to be listing placeholders. He's supposed to list the real thing. So what is he going to list? The other one was listing, fetching the blocks, but then only displaying the ones that has a matching email with the email of the logged in user. Now we don't want that here. We want to display everything for this particular page. So don't only display the ones that have a matching email, display everything here. Alright, then when they click on the view, it comes to this place without passing those things, those query params. So you need to pass the query param when they click on the view. Alright,
Yeah.
that is the number 1 assignment on this page. Then on the view, okay, the other one is I think the other one has to do with arranging this guy. We want this guy to be on one line and the dates to be on another line. Then we want this text here to be the size of this man, and if possible reduce the space between the 2 paragraphs. So that's the second assignment.
You said increase it.
No, reduce the space between the paragraphs. So we want to
The
have,
paragraph, not the translation.
yeah. So we want to have the title on one line, the dates moving under it. I gave you guys an example of Medium. I say you can look at Medium and get inspiration of how you might want to display a blog, right? This is similar. This is the title. This is the picture of the set of the author. This is the so it is the title, not this. This is the author. Picture of the author, the title, the dates, and stuff. So look at anywhere you want to get inspiration from and try to adjust this guy as you want. But then it's going to look nice. Alright? So that's the assignment for this. And then this guy, if it's too much for the width, the length, or the height of this thing, of this card, put an ellipsis. don't don't allow you to push down like this one is doing. Put an ellipsis somewhere around there and then truncate the rest. Let them see it when they click on the view, and then have throw in some space around here. Create many blocks and see how it aligns. So you can throw in some space to make it look nice when you have plenty blocks, right? Because if you have plenty blocks, it looks crowded and not fine. All right, so that's the other assignment. So, and then I think you should also put a space underneath, because if you notice when it's plenty, when it goes under, this is too close. So those are the things you need to take care of. Yeah. So that, I think that's all the assignments. That's all the assignments. These guys, and then these guys. That's all the assignments. Really. Any other thing? No.
I want to see where I wrote it.
Where you wrote the assignments? Okay, you want to confirm if that's all the assignments, right?
Mm.
Okay, please do.
I think most of the assignment I wrote was concerning the card.
You didn't write for the first one.
So you said put a click event on the edit button.
No, I said I think
Put
I said we are going to do that in class. Or did I give it
okay,
as an
so that's,
assignment?
I don't know. I just kept jotting down some things, hoping that when I watch the video, I'll
It will make
place it
sense.
in
Yeah.
a particular place.
Maybe I should allow you guys to do it, right? Yes. Let me give it to you guys too. I want an edit button here. Edit and delete button.
Where?
Huh?
Where?
I don't know. On this page. Anywhere you think is fine. So that will be the third assignment. The first one is on the home page. The second one is on the view create blog page. The third one is going to be on the view page, and it's going to be an edit and delete button. Your choice of button, whether you want to use text or you want to use icons just like this one, is up to you. Alright? Just do something that's fine. Now, what do we want to do? We want to have a view or delete button. Sorry, not view. Delete or edit button. So when you click on the edit, um, when someone clicks on the edit button page, all right, we want you to load something similar to this. I like this assignment. This assignment will help people understand what we did before. So I want you to load this card when they click on the edit button. Now, when you load it, you put the title inside here, you put the content inside here. Sorry, you put the paragraphs inside here. Alright? And now you're obviously going to have that edit and whatever button. So they edit the one they want to edit. When they are done, if they click on add, you also handle it the way we are handling is an update in this page. When they now click on create, what did I just do? When they now click on create, instead of creating a new blog, you're just going to find the blog with the ID that you're editing and update the value with the new one. Very tricky one. I need you guys to do it. Then the delete, we just give you a pop-up. Hey, you're about to delete so and so blog. If they click on confirm, they delete it. If not, you allow them. Any other thing? I believe that should be all.
Yeah.
Yeah, so We spent an hour 10 minutes. So thanks for joining and God bless you.